Hello. Hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, The Guiding Voice for a Better Future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. So, dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help our audience learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. So folks, whenever we come across machine learning, there is one popular example that comes to our mind. The shopping basket analysis. Say, someone who is buying X liters of milk is prone to buy probably 2 cans of beer or the club soda. Kind of analysis has been the most prominent example, and it is the example given in almost every session. So we were really curious, are there any real world problems that are solved by machine learning at all? In case if you are wondering the same thing, and this episode is for you. So today we are going to discuss a topic, putting machine learning models into production. And we are pleased to welcome Ravi to our show.
Ravi Nemala considers himself a continuous learner. He is an avid reader and keeps pace with the business and technological changes happening in the IT world. Currently, Ravi is working as a senior artificial intelligence architect with IBM, helping clients in their AI journey by defining scalable architectures, integrating hybrid cloud ecosystems. For the last 25 years of my engagement with Ravi, one word that summarizes him is perseverance. The way Ravi rallies through the deliverables within the constraints is really amazing, and we will get to know more about it later in this conversation. Ravi has 22 years of professional experience. He started his career with Indian Space Research Organization, then moved into telecom networking products in 2G and 3G with the then Lucent technologies, which is now Nokia. He has built many proofs of concepts in telecom analytics while working for HCL Technologies and mentored teams in building IoT and analytics frameworks. Ravi, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Naveen and Sudhakar, for having me. I have been following your podcast closely and really appreciate the efforts that you are putting in, bringing experts from diverse walks of life and having interactions with them and distilling the knowledge for the audience. So thanks again.
Thank you, Ravi. Thanks for the kind words and encouragement. Thanks to the support from patrons and guests like you, we are able to continue our journey with the unconditional support, both from the guests and also from our audience. So Ravi, coming back to today's topic about machine learning, what is machine learning and why is it gaining this much of traction now?
Okay, if you keep hearing about the companies like Netflix and Amazon, we call them digital natives, okay? Because they started their business on the mobile and the digital technologies. So what they have done to the market is they kind of disrupted the markets by bringing in new business models, right? And how did they do it? Because they essentially use the digital technologies like AI, machine learning, cloud, and customer experience, and they refine the complete value chain of the business. Okay, so that way they are able to give more value to the end customers, right? So what happens in this scenario is like the incumbents need to adopt their business models as well. Whoever is already in this business, they need to reinvent their business to stay in the or to stay relevant. So AI itself is not a new field. They have been in the play from the Second World War itself. The only thing is like the enablers for AI were not there in the picture. Okay, so the enablers for AI are something like a large number of computing machines and huge memory. These are some of the requirements, and they were not available for quite a long time. And now is the right time when we have everything available and there is a huge scale. We see like mobiles are there in every hand, and the computing power that exists on a small mobile phone is so huge. We have the enablers available today, and that is driving the machine learning and the kind of use cases that we see today.
So Ravi, you touched upon Netflix and Amazon, the pure digital native companies. Or how are the businesses going to change with machine learning?
Okay, with artificial intelligence, now you have the enablers, the technology is available to you, but how you are going to use that to redefine your business and what kind of value that you are going to bring to your customers, that's the key aspect, right? Now, if I can talk about an example, let's take an MRI. So if I talk of MRI and ask someone, what is the use case that you are going to implement on the MRI? They would say, I will give the MRI scans to the machine learning model and let it tell me the diagnosis. Okay. But if you think of it, is that really adding any value? Because a patient is not going to rely on a machine telling him the diagnosis of the MRI, right? Ultimately, he is going to go to a professional doctor and get his opinion, right? So then what is the enhancement or what is the optimization that I can use using machine learning, right? So to understand that, you need to dissect the complete workflow that takes place in the MRI. So what happens while taking an MRI is the patient is made to consume chemical called gadolinium, and this chemical is going to let you take high contrast images, and these high contrast images are going to let you diagnose the issues much better, right? So that is the need here. But what is happening because of this chemical is that there are going to be long-term impacts of this chemical on the patient's body, right? Now, can I do something using the artificial intelligence to reduce the amount of gadolinium that the patient has to take? And can I do something to reduce the amount of time that the patient has to be put under the MRI machine? These are some of the things which is in the research mode right now, and it is proved that we can reduce the time as well as we can reduce the amount of chemical that goes into the patient's body. So essentially what is happening here is you are increasing the efficiency of your machine because you can scan more patients with the machine, right? Because you are reducing the time that the patient is spending under the machine. That is one. And second one is you are removing the toxins from the complete value chain. So by using AI, you are getting both economic, social, and environmental benefits, and that's what we call the triple bottom line.
Yep. So that's a wonderful example. Ravi, we use this AI and ML as twin words, right? Kind of synonymously. And what is the difference and relationship between these two terms? Maybe you can explain briefly.
Sure. We keep hearing these two words, AI and ML, and many people use them quite interchangeably, and that sometimes causes some kind of confusion. So to say AI is like a system which is going to imitate the human intelligence by combining the science and engineering aspects of the art of possible. So to go a bit deeper, how does the human intelligence work? Right? Basically, we are going to sense the environment, then we are going to use the patterns of the environment that we have built into our mind, and we are going to combine these two and come to a decision. Right? If a ball is coming towards you, you know like what to do. And how you know that? You know that from your past experience. But to leverage that pattern, you need to combine the sensory and your patterns as well as your decision-making capabilities. So a combination of these things builds an AI system. So with that definition, the ML becomes one part of the AI system. So what is machine learning is like you are giving the machine a set of observations and letting it learn the patterns from the data, just the way a human brain learns patterns from the daily experiences. So that is the difference between the machine learning and AI.
That's very clear. Thank you for coming up with such a simple and easy to understand answer. So why is it complex in taking machine learning to production? Because during the introduction, I mentioned people have been talking only about the shopping basket example and not going beyond that. So definitely would love to understand your use.
Yes, AI being a very recent technology, I would say, because it is gaining more momentum now. So every industry has multiple things to cope up now to really get it into the production, right? And what are the statistics telling us? Only 5% of the organizations which started their ML journeys are really moving into the production, okay? And what prevents them? What is preventing them is the complexity of the process. Okay. And the process essentially involves technology, the process changes, and the people involved, right? So the technology we already understand and what is the evolution of it, right? And people, I would say it is a shortage of skills. And good thing is many people are picking up on these skills now. Then the most important part becomes your process, right? As I told you in the previous example, the MRA example, essentially you need to redefine and re-engineer your processes to really leverage the power of the artificial intelligence. So that's where you cannot have artificial intelligence functioning in silos of your organization. Okay, each department taking up their own AI journey, that is not going to help. It should be an enterprise level strategy which is going to drive the adoption of AI. So it has to come always in a top-down approach. And also another aspect that makes it complex is once you build your model, the artificial intelligence model, it is not as if you are going to put it on the autopilot, right? Because you don't want to have AI system which is in a runaway mode, right? Which is making decisions for you and it is not telling you the rationale behind those decisions. So ultimately, as a business owner, you are the one responsible for the decisions being taken and you will be questioned by the regulators for the kind of decisions that you take. So basically, we need to build a huge framework around your artificial intelligence so that you can take it to the next level.
That is really clear to understand, Ravi. You are typically talking about the triad of people, process, and technology. So, Ravi, what are the stages in operationalizing this machine learning? How to approach this implementation of machine learning into day-to-day life scenarios?
Okay, so when I spoke about the complexities of taking AI into production, let's divide this whole journey into multiple parts. The first one is your business objectives, where when you have cutting edge technology available at your hand, it is easy to get distracted and start trying things which are not going to add value to your business, right? So that's where you need to be very methodic in identifying the use cases that you want to take into production and prioritize them appropriately. And once you decide on what you are going to do, you need to identify the data on which you are going to act upon. So explore the data that is needed to implement this. So to bring this into production, what kind of data is needed? Is there anything that is missing? And if it is missing, how do I bring that in? So that is your next stage. And once you have your data, it is not as if your data is going to be clean and ready for your machine learning training and deployment. So you will have your data scientists sitting on the data and analyzing it, exploring it, and cleaning up the data as needed. Some of the fields may be missing, right? So how are you going to handle them? So these are some of the things which are quite complex and time consuming. So you want your people to sit on that and really come up with a data which is going to be used in the machine learning model and going to give you good results. So as you can understand, this particular stage is very important and it would constitute around 50 to 60% of your overall effort. So that is one area which you want to establish and have strong platforms there, right? And these are some of the things that we call as data pipelines. And once you have your data pipeline and the use cases that you want to implement, your data scientists are going to run multiple models and identify the exact model which is bringing out insights that you want to gain. And this stage, we are going to call it as training. You trained your model. The model which is representing your data is ready now. And now what are you going to do with that? You cannot directly take it and put it into your operational system because there are some regulatory compliance issues that you need to follow. So you are going to let your data scientists evaluate that model and certify that this model is ready for production. Again, this is a human intensive stage. And another thing is, once you put your model into production, let us say, what is going to happen is it cannot be a black box. Like I give some data, 1 terabyte of data, and it comes up with some decisions. And as a manager, I don't know how it came with the decision. So that is one more aspect that is called as explainable AI. So when the AI is coming up with an insight, it should tell me like how did it arrive at the decision, and you have to store the decision metrics as an audit trail, right? So that you can defend yourself with the regulators, or you can tell your customers when they want to understand how this particular decision was made. And also each country is now coming up with their own data governance frameworks and regulations. So personally identifiable information cannot really get into others' hands, and the data belongs to the user, not the company. So with all these ethical issues and regulatory issues coming into picture, you need to build a huge framework around your model so that you collect all these metrics and data lineage before you put it into production. So I think that explains the complexities involved in taking a model into production. And of course, to put this kind of framework in place, you need a lot of novel skills within your team. So that is another aspect.
Wow, this is huge process, both from size and also from time standpoint. No wonder it is taking time to be put into use, especially from the governance risk compliance standpoint. So Ravi, what opportunities does it create for the engineers and industry in general after we come through all these steps?
Okay, so the companies, the companies are not starting their AI journey in a big way, but they want to test the waters. So what they do, they start with POCs. Right? They pick up a small use case and play around with that and try to deploy that and see what kind of results they are getting. And once they get comfortable with how the things are working, they would like to put it in a factory mode and churn out multiple models like 5 to 10 models every 6 months. That's generally the goal that enterprises target. So with that kind of process, what happens is there is certainly demand for data scientists, and that is very well understood. But there are roles like ML ops engineers, whose role is to bring this whole machine learning model into production, and also to set up monitoring frameworks and to collect the data which is required to retrain the models. So ML ops is one role that is evolving at this point. In future, I would see like this particular role integrating into the DevOps role, but at this point it is a unique skill and it stays that way. And at the same time, with your AI systems in place, you want to have the customer experience improved. So you are giving some insight and you want the human to decide on it. So in this scenario, there should be multiple ways that the user should be able to drill down the data and look at the data and understand the intricacies before coming to a decision. So that's where the user experience and customer experience part of the things come into picture. So they are some of the roles. So UX and CX are some of the roles that are getting created now. And also microservices development, which is already a thing which is in demand, that is going to continue going forward. And as I said, you are not going to put your models directly into production. So model validator is one role that is popping up these days. So these are the guys who are going to evaluate the model manually and check if the model is meeting the performance needs as well as the regulatory compliance. And on the business side, of course, the opportunities are unlimited. So it all boils down to how you are going to alter your value chain to create your new business models, and also how you are going to enhance your operational efficiencies.
Wonderful conversation so far, Ravi. I'm sure this is going to benefit our audience immensely, especially those who want to put this machine learning into action. So one final question for this conversation, and what will be your one piece of advice for those who are aspiring to make big in their careers?
Okay, I would say be curious, keep learning, and keep an open eye on what is happening in the real world, because ultimately how your career is going to shape up all depends on the changes that are happening in the environment. So keep an open eye on the environment and try to draw lines how it is going to impact your career and what kind of new things that are coming up which you can learn so that you are ready to take up that challenge.
Be curious and keep learning. Ravi, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to talk to you about putting the machine learning models into production.
Thanks, Sudhakar. It's my pleasure.
All right. So thanks, Ravi. Thanks again for your time.
Dear listeners, to know more about our speaker and the content, refer to the show notes and visit or follow us on social media. We are available on LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Pinterest, and also on YouTube. Just search for The Guiding Voice and then follow, like, subscribe to us, and also share within your network. In addition, please feel free to email us at The Guiding Voice for You. That is TheGuidingVoice 4 as a digit, U as a letter at gmail.com, or WhatsApp us on India number 9494587187. That is India number 9494587187, and we will be happy to collaborate with you.
Hey Sudhakar, can you talk about the exciting opportunity of featuring our audience on this show?
Sure, Naveen. So guys, of late, we have been receiving a lot of career guidance related questions from our regular listeners through YouTube, LinkedIn comments, WhatsApp, and email. And we are responding to them on one-on-one basis. Now, we are pleased to open up a new mode of interacting with you all while providing a chance to broadcast yourself. If you have any questions related to education, career guidance, or a specific IT function, just send your voice message through speakpipe.com/theguidingvoice. We will play your question in your own voice along with the answer either from us or our expert panel in our future episodes. Hope you will utilize this wonderful opportunity.
So, folks, it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode. And today's trivia is about programmers. So I have an interesting question to all of you. Do you know who was the first known computer programmer? Okay, let me reveal it. It was a woman named Ada Lovelace, and she lived in England, where she worked as a mathematician as well as a writer. So she is famous for working on the analytical engine, and she is the one who is known as the first computer programmer. So all women should be proud of this one. So interesting fact, isn't it? Thank you for listening. And there is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful time. Take care. Be safe. Until next time. Bye-bye. So we are signing off.